Ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope that you are fine wherever you are. I'm also okay. Welcome to another episode of Raw Politics. Kalonzo Musyoka did an interview recently, and in that interview, he made two claims. One, that had he been the one facing William Ruto in 2022, he would have won, meaning Raila Odinga, to quote him, was a spent force that should have agreed to endorse him in 2022. Number two, he said that Raila Odinga betrayed him by not picking him as the running mate and picked Martha Karua instead. And as such, that is why Raila Odinga lost. That had he been picked as the running mate, Raila Odinga would have not lost. Now, I know I have done several videos about Kalonzo Musyoka, ranging from what are his chances of being president, the things he needs to do to be president, and of course, why he is yet to be president, even though he is one of the oldest, and not by age, the longest serving politicians in the country. In this video, however, I will focus on the claims and answer the big question. Did Raila Odinga betray Kalonzo Musyoka, or Kalonzo Musyoka is just being naive and playing to the gallery? If that is a topic that interests you, continue watching. And if you do get value from our videos, ladies and gentlemen, consider subscribing to the channel and don't forget to like this particular video. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, Kalonzo Musyoka is one of the longest serving politicians in the country, having joined politics over 40 years ago. Yet he still finds himself taking orders from the likes of Rigathi Gachagua. Why? That is a video I had already done. I'll link it in the description below and at the end of this video, why Kalonzo is yet to be president. In this particular video, I mentioned that we will focus on two things, the claims Kalonzo made recently. He said that Raila Odinga betrayed him by going for Martha Karua instead of him as the deputy president. We are going to answer, is that true? And is it true that had Raila Odinga picked him, they would have won the 2022 election? He also said that Raila Odinga should have endorsed him for the seat in 2022, and that if Raila Odinga had done that, he would have won that election convincingly. So we are also going to look at that. Is it true that Kalonzo Musyoka could have won, and was it possible for Raila Odinga to endorse him in 2022? Let me begin with a brief history of Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. It's something that is in the public domain, but it doesn't hurt just to refresh your memory. Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka began their political interaction during the NDP KANU merger. In fact, they became close to the point that when Raila Odinga left KANU, Kalonzo Musyoka followed him. Now, whether it was out of friendship or because their interests aligned, that is up for debate. But the thing is, they moved from KANU together and joined Kibaki to form NAK. Kalonzo Musyoka was even there when ODM was being formed. And so they were friends, they were close. They had political ideologies that have been the same. In 2007, however, Kalonzo Musyoka, I think, having made a deal with Kibaki, decided to ran away with ODM Kenya. That was the party that Raila, Ruto, Mudavadi, and even Uhuru Kenyatta were members of. Kalonzo chose to run with that party through the help of one Maanzo. And by the way, that is why Maanzo always gets any position he wants in Ukambani. That is the nature of politics. They are rewarding him for standing with their son during that time. But that's beside the point. Here is the thing. In 2007, Kalonzo went alone, came, made a deal with Kibaki, became the vice president. But then these people found themselves again in the Grand Coalition government where Raila Odinga was prime minister and Kalonzo Musyoka, of course, the vice president. They had some wrangles here and there in terms of who was senior. Kalonzo Musyoka would be enjoying the perks that come with the office of the vice president, while Raila Odinga would be struggling to even get the attention of the local administration. You remember him complaining about Nusu Mukeka and other things. They didn't have a frosty relationship, by the way. It wasn't bad even during the Grand Coalition government. And that is why it was easy for the likes of Dalmas to convince Kalonzo in 2013 to deputize Raila Odinga, and he did. Their agreement when they formed CORD, their agreement was that Raila Odinga was going to serve for one term. They believed they were going to win. Raila Odinga was going to serve for 1 term, and after serving for that 1 term, Raila was supposed to endorse Kalonzo Musyoka in 2017 for the presidency. That didn't happen because, one, they did not win. They lost miserably to Uhuru Kenyatta. And Raila Odinga saw that there was no need of honoring that arrangement, considering that he had not served. That was his argument. Now, Kalonzo on the other side argues that the deal was that whether he won or not, Raila says, no, that was not the deal. The deal was I go for 1 term and I have not gone for my term. It is debatable whether Raila betrayed Kalonzo there, because Raila insists it was pegged on him winning and he had not won. So because he didn't win, it never made sense for him to endorse Kalonzo because he was still going to vibe. 2017, Mudavadi joined them. They formed NASA, so CORD was killed with the arrangements that were in CORD. In NASA, however, Kalonzo and others were now more clever. What they did, they said that their agreement had to be deposited with the registrar of political parties. So it was deposited. And for those of you who followed politics, one of the agreement was that ODM was not to field. That ODM was not to field a candidate in 2022. That is something NASA deposited with the registrar of political parties. This time they had cornered Raila Odinga, because even if he was going to say he had not won, the deal was whether you win or you don't win, ODM is not fielding a candidate in 2022. That is what was registered with the registrar of political parties. As you know, they didn't win. Uhuru won by a landslide. They challenged this election. He went back to the polls and, of course, confirmed his victory. Kalonzo Musyoka, Mudavadi, and Wetangula, as they were waiting for Raila Odinga to give them the direction, what to do after the elections of 2017, Raila Odinga had a deal with Uhuru Kenyatta. In this deal, Uhuru Kenyatta proposed that he was going to give Raila Odinga what he has been looking for, that is, the support of the state. In exchange, he wanted total loyalty from Raila Odinga and ability to punish William Ruto. And so this deal, unfortunately, was not communicated to the likes of Kalonzo, and they felt betrayed. Their complaint is in public domain. They really complained against the handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta. They really criticized that handshake at the initial stages, but then later one thing led to the other, and Uhuru Kenyatta managed to bring both Kalonzo, Mudavadi, and even Wetangula back to work with him. Later they started being receptive and accepted the handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga for some time before Mudavadi and Wetangula left and joined William Ruto. But that, in essence, is the history of Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Odinga. Kalonzo says that had he been given the ticket in 2022, he would have won convincingly, as opposed to Raila Odinga, who lost. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not true. And here is why. First, Kalonzo Musyoka doesn't have a base larger than that of Raila Odinga in terms of support. Kalonzo's support is limited mostly to Kamba vote. And based on their turnout since 2013, when they supported Raila, and in 2017 and 2022, the turnout is uniform. It is barely 1 million or thereabout. So that is the support Kalonzo has. Raila, on the other hand, has the support of Luos, had the support of Kisis. I don't know whether he still has that. It's debatable whether he still has the support of Kisis, but he has significant influence in Luya, except Bungoma. And of course, Coast is like another Luo Nyanza. Raila Odinga has a larger political base than Kalonzo Musyoka. And if Kalonzo Musyoka had been given the ticket, it would have been very difficult for Raila to convince his base to support Kalonzo. And here is why. In 2022, the supporters of Raila Odinga believed that he had what he has been missing. That is, the support of the deep state. To quote his own brother, is Oburu Odinga, who said, "We've been winning, but we always lose, our victory is stolen because we don't have the deep state. Now that we have the deep state, there is no way we can lose. So if Raila went back to his base and told them that, you see, I've decided to endorse Kalonzo Musyoka, it would have been very difficult to convince them to vote for Kalonzo, because he had to give them a reason. Why are you giving up when we are about to win, when we have everything that we need? So the support Kalonzo would have gotten from Raila's base would not be the same support Raila Odinga got. Now, that is the reason why Raila Odinga was better candidate than Kalonzo Musyoka in Azimio as far as 2022 election was concerned. So Kalonzo saying that he would have performed better, that is not supported by facts, ladies and gentlemen. We go to the second claim. He says that Raila Odinga should have picked him as the running mate, and that Raila Odinga would have won if he was the running mate. Now, there is one part that I agree with. It was really humiliating for Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta to put Kalonzo through some unnecessary interviews, knowing very well that they had already settled on Martha Karua. It is unfortunate because Raila Odinga would have naturally picked Kalonzo Musyoka. But remember the deal I told you. I am giving you the deep state support, but I want unquestioning loyalty. I want blind loyalty moving forward. So Raila Odinga was not going to question the choice of Martha Karua. Martha Karua was picked by Uhuru Kenyatta and given to Raila Odinga. And if you want to know that Uhuru Kenyatta was calling the shots, remember Uhuru Kenyatta said that Matiang'i would continue serving as the interior minister. He went to Othaya and said that Mutahi Kagwe will still continue serving as the Minister for Health. So this is somebody who was outgoing, an incumbent who is retiring, but he was still there planning the next government. It meant that Uhuru wanted to continue ruling through Raila Odinga. For Raila Odinga, what mattered then was him getting that seat. And once he got the seat, perhaps he had believed he would deal with Uhuru Kenyatta after getting the seat. But before that, he could not say no to any proposal from Uhuru Kenyatta. It was total loyalty. So Raila didn't have the say. Kalonzo is not being honest. He knows Raila Odinga did not have a say on who was going to be his running mate. He knew Uhuru Kenyatta was the one calling the shots. So Raila Odinga did not betray him by picking Martha. Martha was picked for Raila Odinga. But then, let's say, had Raila Odinga insisted and demanded, and let's say for some reason Uhuru Kenyatta was malleable and listened to Raila and said, okay, fine, let us work with Kalonzo, would they have won, as Kalonzo says? I don't think so. Here is why. For you to win the presidency in Kenya, you need three important communities. I will tell you this until you get bored. You need three communities. You need the Kikuyus, you need the Luos, and you need the Kalenjins. In 2022, Ruto had the Kalenjin. Raila Odinga had the Luos. People were fighting for the Kikuyu. And whoever Kikuyus were going to support was going to win. It didn't matter who was the running mate of who. Whether Raila Odinga picked a running mate from Mass, if he got the support of the Kikuyus, he would be the president today. If William Ruto picked his brother as the running mate and still got the support of Kikuyus, he would be the president, because the two communities have to come together. If you want me to take back the memory lane, I can do that. 202, Luos, Kikuyus, Kibaki president. 207, Luos, Kalenjin. Raila won, Kibaki had to steal and be sworn at night. 2013, Uhuru realized that this thing really works. He went and looked for Ruto, even though at that time Kalenjins and Kikuyus were not seeing eye to eye. He said he needed Kalenjin because he couldn't get Luos. Luos were with Raila, and Raila Odinga was vying in 2013. So 2013, it was a combination of Kikuyu and Kalenjin. They won in 2013, they won in 2017, and that is the combination that won William Ruto 2022. So whether Kalonzo Musyoka was the running mate, if Kikuyu supported Ruto, they would still lose. If Kikuyus supported Ruto the way they did, Raila Odinga would still have lost with Kalonzo Musyoka. I believe I have dealt with the two questions. Would Kalonzo have won if he was the candidate in 2022? I have told you no, and given the reason why. Did Raila Odinga betray Kalonzo by picking Martha? Kalonzo knows who was picking the people. He knows that. So it's not Raila Odinga. Then Uhuru Kenyatta was the one picking people. And would Raila had won if Kalonzo was the running mate? I have told you it doesn't matter who was the running mate. What mattered was who the Kikuyus were going to vote for. Whoever they were voting for would have won. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found value in the video. If you did, let me know in the comment section. If you've not liked this video, please do so and share it with your friends. And if you've not subscribed, take a second, subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, if you want to know why Kalonzo is yet to be president, even though he is one of the senior post politicians in Kenya, watch this video.